Spider-Man Far From Home is the 2019 sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. It is also the 23rd installment of the MCU. It is a prelude between the Infinity Saga and the upcoming saga. The movie was produced by Columbia Pictures in collaboration with Marvel Studios, and it is distributed by Sony Pictures. The film was directed again by Jon Watts. Now, there was a lot of expectation about this film. I was really looking forward to it. So now in the next couple of minutes, I'm going to let you know if this movie is good or is bad. So stay tuned. The good. The best part of this film is the returning cast. Of course, you have Tom Holland portraying Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He does a fantastic job doing so. He really portrays the character well. The teenage Peter Parker, the teenage Spider-Man, dealing with frustration of his youth, but also dealing with the responsibility of his powers. And part of him wants to, leave it all behind. And of course, this is the challenge, is the question. So he does a fantastic job. Zendaya portrays MJ pretty good. Jacob Batalon, Jon Fabreau, he is the voice of wisdom in this film. You have Marisa Tomei, Samuel L. Jackson as usual, playing Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, Cobie Smulders, and also you have Jake Gyllenhaal, who plays Mysterio. He does a fantastic job. So the cast is extremely good in this film. Another aspect that I like about this film is the comedy. I know some people dislike the comedy in the MCU films, but I don't. I find it very lighthearted, and it keeps the flow of the films on a good pace. It maintains that, so it makes the films very enjoyable, not only for a particular group, for everyone. And that's something that I really like, because I like these films that they bring the family together. Of course, you're seeing issues, they're dealing with certain things, everyone is dealing with certain issues, but I really like that part. He maintains that rhythm, and they had some really clever moments. I think the comedy here was better than the previous film. To me, the most important aspect of the film, of any film, is the story. A story has to connect with the audience, and I feel that this one connects even more than Homecoming. It feels rightfully a Spider-Man story. You see the struggle, Peter Parker is going through. He's dealing with the dilemma of living his life or taking responsibility of it with his power. And all of that is a challenge that is constant in the story of Spider-Man through the comics. So they did a fantastic job to really portraying that. So this movie doesn't deviate from that. It doesn't change or reinvent the wheel. It really concentrates on really giving you a Spider-Man story, and it does a fantastic job doing so. Another great thing for me in this film was the CGI. I would say that some people might complain about CGI. You're going to find people that always complain about it no matter what. Particularly the best parts to me were the final battle, and also there was an holographic vision that Spider-Man has to go through in this film, and it was very good. Pretty much high-level stuff there. They did a fantastic job on those scenes, so it really keeps the action, the pace. So it was good. There's a lot of moments where I would say the action and the CGI are well done. So definitely I like that. The bad. Some people may say that this film lacks a strong villain. Now, I do understand where they come from, and I do disagree, but I do understand. If you are familiar with Spider-Man like I am, and I've been reading Spider-Man since I was a child, in his world, it's always full of people, villains, that are not these masterminds trying to destroy the world. They're just people that started, and I would say, with good intentions, and they get overtaken by their own greed and their own selfishness, and by their own pride or their own bitterness or anger. And I feel that the same plays here. Like I said before, it plays as a Spider-Man story, and it plays very well like that. So the villain plays like that. It's a normal person that is overtaken by greed and desire of power. So definitely that's the only part that you're going to notice in this film. But yeah, for some people it might be a disappointment, because everyone wants someone like Thanos. But I don't think that is the case, or something that fits, I would say, rightfully in the story of Spider-Man. Now, that brings me to a point where I do agree with most critics, and is the fact that some of the events are really hard to believe. Some of the people here, some people, get fooled very easily. And in my mind, I'm thinking these people are, you're talking about Shield. You're talking about Nick Fury. How is it that he falls for it so easily? You know, being the type of person he is, as the person that we have seen through so many good movies and many movies where he really, it's a person that knows and he doesn't trust anyone. But in this film, you can get to see some of that. Some of that that doesn't really add up in the end, but I think that the film, because it goes fast and it's going in a good pace, it's not as, you know, as important to you in the end. But when you analyze it later on, you realize that some of the events are really hard to digest, you know, how they happen and the way they happen. But it's just part of the story. But definitely some people will say that this is a disappointment. Another disappointment for me is also on the CGI part. Although I mentioned before that I like some of the CGI, particularly on the final fight, but also I like the CGI in some other moments in the film. There's also other moments that the CGI is not that good, and it's very clear that they're using CGI. And as I mentioned before, the important aspect of any CGI is to try to make it as indistinguishable as possible, but you get to see it. And some of the effects are clearly staged, and some of the events and some of the locations, so you can see it. So definitely it is also another disappointment. In conclusion, Spider-Man Far From Home is definitely a great film that has everything that I want really from a Spider-Man film. I don't really have much to complain about it. It is a continuation of the previous story, expands on the story. It feels more natural than before. I like the characters more because I know him more. You know, I know Tom Holland more as Peter Parker, and you can feel he's a struggle. You know, he's struggling emotionally, mentally. He's trying to keep up, but also he's dreaming for other things in his life, to have a normal life. And you can see that struggle, which is a very Peter Parker, very Spider-Man base in the comics. And but the film does that. You know, I know there were a lot of people expecting a lot of things, and some critics have been a bit strong with this film. They're not liking it because they were expecting something bigger. But sometimes it's because even this film threw some red herrings through the trailer. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes it's not good. It's not good to pay too much attention to trailers. It's better just to come with low expectations or no expectations at all, just to watch the film and enjoy the story for what it is. So this film throws a lot of that stuff. It did that through the trailers, but also at the beginning of the film, you get a lot of these red herrings. But ultimately, the film ends in a different story, in a different part. It doesn't give you too much explanation. It doesn't really go into the details about the future of the MCU, which in my opinion is good, because I want this movie to be grounded. I want it to be this film all about Spider-Man. And I can be honest with you, as a comic book reader, I've never been a fan of Spider-Man when he's involved with the Avengers and the comics, or when he's involved with all these mega stories, because to me, Spider-Man has always been the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's dealing with villains in his own world. He's doing it by himself, and that's what makes Spider-Man so great. I've never been such a fan of when his adventures go kind of international, and when they go into the big stage, you know, with the big superheroes, you know, the most famous ones or the most powerful ones in the cosmic adventures. So the film kind of stays away from that. It kind of makes you think at first that it's going on that route, but then of course it goes in a different route, which to me it was good, and it was a welcoming thing. I really like it because it definitely stays grounded in reality, on the truth of Spider-Man, so it respects the character. It doesn't deviate from that, and to me as a comic book reader, I am very grateful and thankful for that. So if I have to give this film a final score, I will say it's an 8.5 out of 10, which means it's a very impressive film. Now, I like this one. Me and my wife, we like this film more than Homecoming. We felt more engaged with it than we did with the previous one. The other one is good, but I think this one was a bit better. My score for that one was an 8. This is an 8.5. I like it, and I highly recommend it. Definitely it's a good movie for the summer. But what is your opinion? Have you watched the film? Are you planning to watch the film? Let me know in the comments below. So once again, thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.